Hello and welcome. Today we want to create this nice fancy transition and sliding effect. Now without further ado, let's get started. Great. So first in our terminal we go into a project folder and we say Flutter create hover effect. And we make an -e so that we get a minimal example. Now we enter code dot to come to our IDE. And usually, that was a mistake. Of course, we want to jump into the hover effect and then say dot. So with that, we get directly our open folder. We delete this one and have this one open. Great. So inside of here, we have all our stuff, but the fancy thing is thanks to the -e that we get a minimal setup. So that means here inside, we don't get any funky stuff running, and inside of our main.dart we can directly start working. Great. So what do we need first? So the thing is, with the grid effect, what we want is we need to stack all three parts. That means the hover part needs to be a stack on top of a container, and on top of both of them there needs to be a container with a border. Reason for that is else in Flutter the border is getting wacky and it looks very stupid if the animation is going above the border and not inside. But yeah, so how we can start, we stick with our scaffold, we have our main app, everything is beautiful. And inside of here, we can now remove all that stuff. I think we don't need this, can be gone, scaffold can be gone. And inside of this body, we start now. So first of all, let's start with a stack. So, and inside of this stack, we have some kind parts to do. First of all, we want that this stack is animated. So let's run also a debugger. We run that in macOS, but of course you can do that in all the hover possibilities. That means web and Windows, not necessarily for phones, even though that there is also a hover effect, but it doesn't look that nice or it doesn't feel that nice. So don't get confused there. Good. In our Flutter app, there is currently not so much happening, but we will change that in a bit. So first of all, we would like to center that part so that we get have our stack centered across the whole thing. And inside of a stack, we can set children. So inside of our stack, let's start with the first part where we show the image. So that means we have a container. And inside of that container, we use a decoration in this case, because we want to make sure that we have that image directly on top of the container. And inside of that, we can start with the image that we can see finally something. So we use a decoration image for that. And this image should be an image that we have from assets image. Let's take that over. So I go here, we create a new folder, assets. And inside of here, we just drop in a JPEG. In my case, it's a nice image of Isfahan. It's a city in Iran, very beautiful. And with that, we want to go on further with this. So we pass in an asset image. It's complaining at the moment because it has no string to that asset. And we also have not defined it in our pubspec.yaml. So inside of Flutter pubspec.yaml, we have to declare the assets. And inside of here, we remove that. Going one tab in, say assets/isfahan.jpg. Great stuff. If we have done that, we can now take that as an asset, isfahan.jpg. If you are afraid that you make mistakes writing this stuff here, I highly recommend the package FlutterGen. In FlutterGen, you have the option to really make it easy to create strings into static variables, so you don't have the problems that you mispronounce something in the assets folder. Highly recommend that. It works with the build function. Maybe it's worth a video. Okay, so we have that image. It looks like this, very big. Not very beautiful so far. So from the scaffold, I think we have to change the color, right? So getting the background color here will be this one. So just to make sure that we have a nice little background color here, I choose this blue one, but you can choose whatever color you like. All right, so that's that. So we have our decoration box, we have a container, we have a stack that is centered. So that's why it has some space on top. But we have a problem, right? Because all of that doesn't really look nice. First of all, let's say this container should have only a certain size. Or is it only the container? No, let's do it for the stack. So we need a sized box. And this has the size of our card. In our case, we give that now very random numbers, but you can choose that, of course, depending on your use case, to make that as fitting as possible. So I have now this, and it looks quite good already. So that's already a card, I would say. But what we don't have is a border, right? So as I said already, we could now give that border inside of that decoration. But that would lead later to that animation problem, that the animation happens on top of that border, and that looks a little bit stupid. So in order to avoid that, what we have to do is underneath of that container, we create another container. We give that a sized box because I don't want to really create a container. And with that child, there is a decorated box inside, which then has only the decoration part. Great. So this sized box, let me quickly think. There's a comma missing. Great. So this decorated box has a box decoration. And in this box decoration, we want to give it a border. And this border should be a border all. We say the color should be colors.white. And make that a little bit cleaner here, that we know where we are. Fantastic. So as you can see now, the border is only that little tip on top here. And the problem here is that because of the size boxing, we have to pass in the width and the height again. That was currently now the only solution that I found. Maybe there's a cleaner solution. If you find one, please let me know. Great, with that we have now that, and as you can see, the image is not filling the container. We will take care of that in a second. But first, let's increase the width of the border a little bit to 6, and we give the whole thing also a border radius. So that is a border radius dot all radius dot circular 25. Great, I think we can make that a const. Fantastic. So that is already round. Beautiful. But now the first weird things are going to happen, and let's have a look why. So first of all, the decoration image should have the fit. In our case, box fit fill, or doesn't really look nice. So let's take, what is the other one? Cover. So something like that. That looks not too bad. But as you can see already, the image somehow at the corners cuts off and just jumps out. So what we could do is giving now this box decoration also a border radius. That would be one option. And I think that is also the option that we do. The other option would be that we say, okay, we make a ClipRRect or a ClipRRect to increase that. But I think the easier solution here is also to get that border radius. Just drop that also onto the container in the box decoration. Voila, and that should already do the trick actually. So, and with that, now our border looks already quite fashionable. And now, how do we go further? We would like to showcase some text on top of it, right? So we have our image, we have our border, that's good. One problem that will occur soon, but we keep that for now. Let's create the inner part now. So that transition widget. What we need inside of here is just, we want to have a column. And inside of this column, we have different text widgets. And because I'm on Windows and on side of a web, and I know it already, I use the selectable text for it, where we pass in, for example, Isfahan. We have another selectable text where we pass in, I don't know, like a short disclaimer message where the history and beauty unite. Isn't it beautiful? I mean, isn't that the real reason we go there? So, and the last thing is obviously our very big text. So that looks now a little bit ugly. So what we have to do is saying style, and we take the style from our media queries. So that means we say text theme dot of context, and now we get our text theme. So, and say, for example, title, let's give it a large one, and it's going to be large. That's already great. Fantastic. So we switch that for all the titles here. At the moment, I will just use all everywhere the same. We will change that in a sec. So this one will be, let's give it, for example, title small. So with that, we have already all our texts. Now we just have to copy it with, because we need the different color. Copy with, and we could also set it up inside of our material theme. So when you have a material theme set up, it will directly use the right color. I don't have that, so let's say colors white, and probably we have to do that everywhere. So the title could be null, so that's why he's complaining here. Same thing for here. And last but not least, here. So getting all whitish, that's great. And now we still need some space between all these things. And I would like that the column starts the main axis alignment at, the cross axis alignment should be starting at the start. So to move everything to the left. Now I would like to have it a little bit more visible. So we say here is a const sized box with a height of 50. So then we have some space up there. The next part is sized box height of, but what we want to do is adding that underneath of here so that there is some space. And another thing that I feel right now is that we need some space on the left and the right. And we would like to have a button on the bottom part. So we say expanded. There is a child, which is an elevated button. Oops, elevated button. And here inside, we just give a child. This has a text widget where we say, for example, discover the jewel of Iran. Beautiful. So now that we have that, we of course need also an onPressed function. We activate it for now. And you can see thanks to the expanded, it's getting really, really big. So we have to surround that also with a row. So then it looks a bit more like what we want to achieve. Fantastic. And inside of here, probably the main axis alignment is center. So let's try that. Beautiful. We could also keep it on the side. I think when we make the left and right a bit narrower, then it looks great. So this can be a const. And now we see something weird. Usually on desktop and also on web, it should be a pointer. But as you can see, that button is not clickable. Why is that? Thanks to the stack, we have now levels on top of each other, and the button is inside of the middle layer, and that means we can't click it directly. So what we have to do is we have to go down here to our size box and wrap this widget with IgnorePointer. So that means that border radius on top will not stop us from clicking something below. As you can see now we have the ripple effect and we have the pointer again. Great stuff. So cleaning that a little bit up, that looks a bit more like it. Thanks. So this is our overlay, more or less. So all that column part is only for animation and for our overlay at the end. So in this column should be also wrapped in a padding. We give that an 8. Let's see. Now let's increase it 16, 24. 24 looks kind of nice. Let's increase it even further. Good. So 32, for example. So that's great and all, but now something is missing, right? We only have the texts now, but we don't really have this glass effect that we would like to have. So for that, we use a so-called backdrop filter. And what we will do is we wrap our padding with the backdrop filter and zack, and it will need some new parameter, the filter. And the filter is an image filter where we pass in the blur. Wait, I have to import it from Dart UI, and then we get blur. And here we can now set the sigma X and sigma Y. And we pass just a nice little 6 inside of it, of 6 pixels. And you can see we have that nice little glass effect. Fantastic. Great. So with that, we have the backdrop filter. Everything is set up. We have nearly our card ready. And what we would need to do in order to make it nice little wrapping, like moving in and moving out, we would need to create an offset for it. So how can we do that? The easy part here is there is already a widget for that called slide animation. But what we want is actually that middle layer inside of that stack. We want to move out and in, right? So we need some kind of transition here. And the idea is that we pass in here the a new widget called slide transition. So, and if we check here, we have the position. And if we take a look onto what the position needs, it needs an animation offset. So, and with that, we need to get a controller for the animation, because here we don't have an implicit animation, we have an explicit animation. We need the whole stuff like an animation controller, all that disposal, and we have to create the animation. So let's head open to the highest level. And we have to switch our stateless widget for now to a stateful widget. That being said, we need the animation. But first, let me quickly think. I think we need also something else, because what we forgot so far is the hover effect. So let's remove quickly the slide part, because the hover effect is quite easy implemented. If we go to our sized box, what we would like to do is everything inside of that sized box, as soon as we hover, something should happen. So we wrap this widget with a mouse region widget. And here we have the chance for on enter. We can do something, get an event and do something, and on exit we have an event and we do something. Okay, so when we hover, we would like to activate the controller to forward, and if we exit, we would like to activate the controller to go back. So that means inside of our state, we have to add our single ticker provider mixin. And that means inside of here, we would like to now create the animation. So how can we do that? First of all, we need a late final animation controller. Why late? Because we first have to initialize it. So, and this is an animation controller with something inside. And here we pass in the duration, which is a duration of milliseconds. I take now 600. You can change that, of course, by your liking. And depending on how much you increase that duration, the longer it will take to slide in and out, or the shorter you do it. And vsync is this, because we have the single ticker provider here directly. Good. So now this controller will help us to animate. So that means inside of our mouse region, we use the controller saying forward. That will start the event. And we do the same thing with the on exit, saying controller dot reverse. Good. Now this looks a little bit ugly. Let's make that easier. So that means we have our controller with vsync and everything set up as we wanted. And now we have to create the animation. Because now we don't have an animation for the offset. We just have the controller to understand how long the animation will take. So that means we need a light final animation from offset. And how do we get that? By introducing a so-called tween. So we use a tween with an offset. And inside of here, we can now pass all the kinds of things like beginning, ending, and how to animate the stuff. So the begin is, in our case, let me think. So we would like that it is outside at the beginning and then moves inside, right? So that means we create a const offset. That is now 1.1 for me and 0. And the end will be inside of the part, so just the offset 0. If you don't remember, the offset here starts always on the top left. That means if you would like to move it down, you would have to move this part down. And if you ask for 1, it will be starting directly at the edge, and 1.1 moves it a little bit further outside. Just to give you that expression. So the tween offset is of course not an animation, so we have to do something here. We have to say we want to animate it. And here we need a curved animation with the parent, this is the controller, and the curve that we would like to use. In our case, we use the ease in, ease out. Just a nice little curve. If you are unsure which curve you want to use for your animation, you can jump in. And as you see, you have these nice little links everywhere. And now very hard to see for you, but if we jump here, there comes little videos that show you exactly how the animation will flow. There are all kinds of things like bouncing and stuff like that, which we don't want to use now. But all these nice little curves have these little videos for it. So you really understand how to animate the stuff. One of the reasons why we love Flutter, the dogs. Okay, good. Now we have that animation that we wanted. It is now yellowish because we don't have used it somewhere, so it complains, which is absolutely fantastic. Good, now we are ready to use that animation. And if we look now, we need to do it. Whoop. I removed it, okay. So in our stack, we have the first container that we don't want to transform. But the second one, the backdrop. And here we have that slide transition. I already showed you that, where we have the position. And here we pass in the animation. And as you can see now, very interesting. If we put that a little bit out, we can see the text, and weirdly, we can also see the transformation of the backdrop at the moment. And there is a little bit of a problem. We don't really hide that stuff. So what we need to do is surrounding our slide transition. We have our slide, exactly. So inside of our slide, we want to have also a widget, ClipRRect. And this one has the clip behavior, clip.hardEdge. With that, we cut it already out, the backdrop. And as you see it now, it only surrounds now the slide transition with the formula. So that means at least the background, the backdrop is now correctly visible. And now we only have to take care of the text that it is not visible anymore. And for that, we also need a ClipRRect, around everything. Like that sized box here needs to have also that ClipRRect, where we say the clipping behavior is clip.hardEdge. And now it is gone because the box is now really cut out of the whole thing. So if we hover, we can see our nice little animation, and that's actually it. There's one thing that I couldn't solve, and maybe you see it if I show it here, down there, these edges, I couldn't cut them. So if you have a solution for that, I believe it has something to do with the Sigma part. So because of that here, we move them somehow outside of that box. So if I reverse them, it moves them probably somewhere else. Oh, nice. Yeah, okay. It's just not visible now anymore. So I have the feeling that it has something to do with this backdrop filter, and I believe it has something to do with the Flutter framework itself, but I couldn't find a solution here yet. If you have a solution, please let me know. All right, that's it. Down in the video description, you find the link to the repository. Thanks for watching. Till the next time. Bye.